ex-residents, we lived in France for 12 years. Does this give us any advantages for moving back to France?
No, not really. The process has changed. You've got to start again. As Fabien said, the excitement of maybe taking too much information beforehand, or would be the only thing that would not help you. And in this context, unfortunately, you're just a passport holder. And don't forget that this 12-month visa, I just want to make sure, this 12-month visa, or this 4-year talent passport visa, which are the only two that are renewable, and we talked about that last time, but they're not a big deal for the French government, right? They're not really. This is a big deal to you and to us, because it's stressful moments for all of us, because we want you to be successful. But they are temporary visas. They're not saying you can live there forever. So their actual request there at that time is not so much the interest of why you're moving to France, or if you lived there for 12 months before. It's, do you tick the 3 pillars that you mentioned, Zoe? And then once you're in France, yes, of course, that might help to show that you're really, you're doing all of the admin. You can speak a minimum amount of French, and potentially one day they might introduce a French test, even for the Carte Séjour.
Yeah, so I guess there's going to be advantages just for them moving to France, having already been through it, but perhaps not from the actual visa application point of view.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there you go, Amanda. But we can help.
There is one thing worth mentioning, because we're mentioning all the obvious rules, and this is something I think we didn't mention last time. It's very important. There are some rules, well, this is also very typically French, that are mandatory but never checked. It doesn't make it any less mandatory. For example, I think the population of Ireland since Brexit has probably doubled, with all the British that found a relative in Ireland, and they've applied for an Irish passport or a German passport, or an EU passport basically, and many are coming to France, for example, through that passport. But it doesn't change the requirement. You still are supposed to be coming with having a safe place to live and having private medical insurance cover. And most people think that they can avoid that because obviously with an EU passport, that they won't be double checking things at the border and things like that. But if you end up in an hospital and say, oh, okay, well, I just have a passport, but I have no cover in social security in Ireland because I've never been there. I'm just a passport holder. Then in a way you're an outlaw because you're supposed to be covered. It's because if you really were an EU citizen, then you'd be covered by that of an EU state. So this is kind of these
very
undisclosed regulations. Well, actually, they're disclosed, but it's just obviously no one's checking for that, or no one's controlling or auditing that. So you think you can get away with it, and most will. But if anything happens, then you might be in trouble. So this is also something. That's why it's always worth having a conversation with an expert to make sure that everything's in check, because this is the kind of thing you probably don't even think about. You're like, okay, I have a new passport. Everything is fine. Maybe.
Yeah, so this is for people who have EU citizenship, so they have an EU passport, but then they haven't necessarily been resident in the EU.
Yeah, but unless you can get a EU, medical European card,
right?
Like the former EEC and the no GEEC, that's probably not going. They probably need something else. Well, it's not going to be crazy because it's the same requirement as with the visa, but still.